Madam Chair, we are live.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. I'd like to call the meeting to order and acknowledge that we're in Treaty 1 territory, the home and traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, Ojibwe, the Nunu, Cree, and Dakota peoples, and in the national homeland of the Red River Métis. Our drinking water comes from Shoal Lake 40 First Nation in Treaty 3 territory. My name is Lynn Nesbitt, and I'm chairing the hearing this morning. Joining me on our panel are Michelle Duncan and Richard Whitbread. Our assessors today representing the City of Winnipeg Assessment Taxation Department are Matthew Harling and Ryan San Juan. And our administrative personnel is Nicole Carnegie. To the Zoom participants of the hearing, please note you are placed in the waiting room until your property is called upon. When it is your turn, you will be admitted into the meeting. Kindly follow along on the City of Winnipeg's Board of Revision YouTube channel for the hearing process. Once the host admits you into the hearing, please close or mute your YouTube player. You will then be permitted to speak with respect to your property. Once your hearing has concluded, you can leave the meeting. We'll be hearing applications for revision of the assessment rule in accordance with the Municipal Assessment Act. The matters for which revision is requested have been described in each application, and we will limit discussion to those matters. The statements that are made at this hearing are sworn testimony, and anyone speaking to the matters must be sworn in. Be advised that comparisons of assessments of properties are not considered evidence of market value by the Board of Revision. The Board of Revision is appointed annually by Council and is independent of it and the City Administration. It makes its decisions on the basis of the evidence provided at this hearing and issues a written order that will be mailed to all parties as soon as possible. Please note that the board's decisions with respect to an application may be appealed to the Manitoba Municipal Board if the matter pertains to assessed value or classification, or to the Court of King's Bench if the matter pertains to the application of exemptions from taxation. Should you wish to appeal, information on how to do so will be included with the board's order. With respect to the hearing process, I will confirm the points of appeal with your property to be addressed with each applicant following the swearing in. We will then have the assessor's testimony, followed by questions that the applicant may have, and then the applicant's testimony followed by questions. Each side will have an opportunity to summarize if they wish. Once all of the evidence about an application has been brought forward, the applicant may leave. The process will repeat for each item on the docket today. The session will close after all the applications have been heard, and the board will deliberate in private and make its decisions. You will receive the board's decision by registered mail as soon as possible. As information, all public hearings are live streamed, recorded, and will be part of the public record. We will be hearing items 1 through 7, 11, 14, and 15 on our docket today. Ms. Carnegie, please affirm the assessor's and the applicant's testimony.
Thank you. Mr. Harling, please state your full name.
Matthew Harling.
You affirm that the evidence you're about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Thank you. Mr. San Juan, please state your full name.
Ryan San Juan.
You affirm that the evidence you're about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Thank you. Mr. McCubbin, please state your full name.
Howard Lindsay McCubbin.
You affirm that the evidence you're about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Today we'll just go through the agenda in order. So item number 1 is file number 222321. Mr. Assessor, when you're ready, you may begin, please.
Madam Chair, I have a quick question I just wanted to mention is the actual file numbers or property number or the item numbers 1 through 5, they actually all are kind of essentially tied together in a sense.
Okay.
So I was wondering if it would make more sense to maybe start with item number 5, because then it will kind of make more sense, if you will, I guess, just because like I said, these pieces of land are all owned by the same property owner and they're all kind of tied with each other. So unless you want me to go, unless you want me to start with number 1, that's fine. So, but
Mr. McCubbin, does that make sense to you?
Yes, that does, Madam Chair.
Okay. Do any of the panel members have any objection to that?
Nope, that looks good to me.
Can't hear you, Mr. Whitred.
Sorry, I had my mic off. Just a comment then, if we're doing number 5, we're going to do the warehouse then, Ryan, Matthew, if I understand, and that's done on the income approach. And then we'll come back looking at 1 through 4, which are land values. Have I got this right? They're all owned by the same company.
Correct. Yeah. Like I said, there's they're all kind of tied. It's the way they're broken up. So they're all owned by the same property owner, but they're all it's all part of the same business in a sense. So they use all that space forever. So, basically the 1755 Dougal, which is number 5, is kind of like the principal holding or the principal property, if you will, whereas the other properties are essentially tied to it, if you will. So it kind of makes maybe more sense to go through this first when I go through. Maybe it may make more sense when I explain it. So it's just a bit of a complicated kind of situation with this one.
Okay, yeah.
I noticed the applicant has rolled all of them into his number 5 document and in number 4321. They're all in the one document, but we do still have 5 roll numbers, if I understand this correctly.
Yeah, that is correct. They are technically all individually assessed. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right, then, with that request and hearing no objections, we will start with number 5 on our agenda. 1755 Dougal Road, file number 22-2320. So, Mr. Assessor, when you're ready, you may begin with item number 5.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair. The file number is 22-2320. The roll number is 060933300000. The address is 1755 Dougal Road, and the owner is AB Comp Holdings Limited. The 2023 assessed value based on a reference date of April 1st, 2021 is $4,486,000. Before I go more into the brief, I did have a chance to speak with Mr. McCubbin regarding this property the other day. So I do have a recommended value I'm proposing. I don't believe we're in agreement with it, but I'm still going to be going with my proposal, and I'll explain that as I go through along. So I'll go through the property itself. So at the end of the day, if we want to go actually to let's start page 3 here. So this is kind of show some of the pictures of what's going on here. So so if you look at page 3 here, now this is the current roll we're dealing with, the 0690333000. So this is the principal roll where all the income valuation is being done. Now, if we go to then pages 4, you'll see 2 other buildings. So now these are all part of that roll. Or technically, sorry, we're including these building values on that main principal roll I just spoke to. And I'll keep going as long to explain to make more sense of it. If you go to page 5, this is another building that's part of the property as well. And page 6, this is the final building that's part of the roll number. And then if you go to page 7, my brief, you'll see all the different all the different buildings on this. So you'll see the one there's 1, 2, 3, 4 buildings. And if you actually go to page 8, you'll see I've numbered the buildings actually 1, 2, 3, and 4. So this is how we get our total area for the total lease area for the building. So, and as you can see just on the picture itself, there's the parcels of land are all cut up in different pieces. So if we actually go to then page 10, just to kind of give an idea. Now, those other pieces of land or other roll numbers we're speaking to today, I've labeled them A, B, C, and D. So now those are the pieces of land, how we're assessing them currently. So we are actually, if you actually kind of go back, unfortunately, go back to page 8 and look, going back to page 8 and 10, you can see that some of these buildings are actually on some of these rolls that we're assessing as land. So, however, although all that income value is actually being assessed on this main roll number, the one below where it says 4486 on page 10, that's where essentially all that building value is. So I know it's a little confusing how it's been broken up. It's just unfortunately the way it's been currently set up at this time. So I just want to give a little bit of background of how it's set up, or whatever. So when we're speaking to the land parcels, you can kind of have an idea of why it's how it's broken up essentially. So. So just going to page 9 of my brief, this is the actual workup. So I just want to give you a breakdown of how we're currently assessing it. Basically, if you go to like, you'll see here, at the bottom here, we have a capitalized value. So this is the income overall valuation of $4,726,400. And what we initially did is, which is, going forward, I think this is something we're gonna have to address because I think it's not really the right way to do it. But essentially what we did is we deducted all the additional land value, and then we added in an additional $841,000 back in, which, I was trying to figure out why it was done like that. I can't figure out why it was done like that, but that's currently how it's assessed. So, so what we're basically saying is there is additional, we believe that there is additional land value in those additional parcels. And then we've essentially included it in this value. So that's where we get the 4486. So we're essentially adding $841,000 of additional land. But as I stated, just looking at this property a bit further, and the recommendation I'm going to put forth is, I don't believe it's going to be agreed to, but I feel that the additional land value we're adding is a little high. So basically my recommendation is to revise the assessment to $3,970,000. And that's basically deducting or only adding in $325,000 of additional land value, opposed to $841,000. And this is based on just looking at some comparables I had and such, and what I think is reasonable. So,
So may I get, sorry,
No, not yet.
may I get the
Okay,
figure?
I want to
just-
get that number again.
sorry,
So-
3,970 is the total recommended value.
Okay,
And
and
the
you're
additional,
reducing that additional land value from 841,000 to 325,000, correct?
that would be, that's how I come up with it, yes. So,
Okay, so we still have that capitalized value of
Yes.
4,726.
correct.
Less the 181
Sorry, no, it would be less, it would be actually less 756,000.
net.
Or for that would be for the land. So basically the capitalized value, I'm not touching anything with the capitalized value at 472,600. I'm just deducting roughly $756,000, or if you want to look at it this way, adding in 325, if you will. It's just the
Right,
it's just the way you look at it.
deducting the 1,081,081 and
Yes,
then
and then adding-
adding in
Yeah.
325.
That's
You
that's
want to follow your steps, yeah.
yeah. So
okay.
I apologize. It's a bit confusing.
Okay.
So, but that's
Um,
yeah.
Okay. Do you have anything more that you'd like to add before we go to questions, or?
Like I guess if just looking at, if you go to page or no, I'll leave it at that for now. I can just wait for questions and go from there. Yeah.
Okay, so Mr. McCubbin, we do have a verbal rec for
Right.
$3,970,000. Before you ask any questions, do you accept that value first of all?
And Madam Chair, that's specifically for this rule number only as
Just
far,
this item number 5.
no, that's not accepted.
Okay, then Mr. McCubbin, you may go ahead with questions.
Okay, just thanks for your presentation, Mr. Harling. Just to clarify, and for my purposes here, just taking you back to page 9 of your with your income summary. So the value remains for the buildings by income approach to value of $4,726,400. Is that correct?
Yeah, that is correct. Yes.
Right. So now you have changed that $841,000 to $325,000.
Correct.
So you're deducting now $325,000 from the 476. Sorry, you're adding that in.
Yeah, sorry, yeah, it's yeah,
You're
so
adding
essentially-
that in. So,
Yeah, correct.
my question is, where is that land value located? On the, on page, 8 of the brief.
Basically, the one area I feel that, if you go to, I guess it's hard to, let me see if I can yell. I'm just trying to, I apologize, maybe if we might make it easier if we go to page, if you actually go to page 10, it might be a little easier.
Excuse me, Mr. Harling, we are having a little bit of difficulty hearing you.
Oh,
We'll turn
okay.
up the volume from our
Is
end,
that
but
better?
maybe if you speak more directly into the.
Oh, I apologize, yeah, sorry, trying to read.
That's better.
Thank you.
Sorry. So yeah, if you go to page 10, my brief, actually, it might make it a little easier. If you go to the part where I've labeled it B.
He is involved, as in
Yeah, B is in Bob, yes, exactly, yeah. So that's essentially where I believe that the additional land value is, there's the potential for the additional value in the land. So that's where I have come up with the value. And that's basically where I'm using that additional land values from, so.
Okay, so in a sense, you have reduced that land value from, if I can read that correctly, 381,000, you've reduced it down to 325. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's one way of looking at it. And also, that being said, though, as I spoke previously, all these pieces of land we're going to be obviously speaking to later. We're still technically deducting, $756,000 in total. So, these other pieces of land here, we're accounting for those ones as well, I feel. So that's essentially kind of how I'm looking at it. So in that 725. So.
Those are all the questions I have.
Thank you. Mr. Whitred, do you have any questions?
Yep, I can't make head nor tails out of the math on this, Matthew. I'm sorry. I'm going to
Okay,
get you to walk through this again because I can't make it add up. So let's talk about, you have a 4,486,000 initial value you had.
Yeah, that's the overall value. Yeah, right now. Correct.
Now, is that for all A, B, C, D pieces?
That's essentially, yeah. If you look, actually, like I said, I apologize. Like the way this was done or assessed is, I think it's, like I said, I'm gonna have to fix this going forward, so it's not like this. I don't it's confusing, right? So if you look actually on page 9 of my group for the actual income workup is.
I've looked
So
at
now
that.
the capitalized value again, 472,600. So now if you look at it where it says other adjustments at 1,080,975, that value technically is including all of those. If you add up all those individual pieces of land, if you go to page 10, that's where the 1,880,000 technically is. If you add up all those, if you add up A, B, C, and D on page 10, that's where the 1,080,000 comes into play, right? So what we've done is we've deducted that, and then and then essentially we've added back in $841,000 of it, which again, if anything, it should have been just a complete deduction. It would be more simpler, obviously, but that's how it was done. So my rec, what I'm proposing is I'm not changing anything on the income. I'm just taking 4,726 minus $756,000 to come to the 3,970.
So if I look at map on page 10, that's
Yes.
where the A, B, C, D, and the big unmarked section is. And then I go back to your page 8. There are no buildings on what is characterized on page 10 as B, C, D. There are buildings on A and the big unmarked section.
Correct, yes.
So your value could be derived of A plus the unmarked section, and the excess land B, C, D would be an adjustment, no?
I mean, that's another way you could look at it. I understand, there's no buildings on there, so, but I've just included a portion of it, just based on looking at comparables and such. So, I understand what you're saying, though. Yeah, that would be another way of looking at it, though. Yeah, so.
Okay, so is this value going to supersede items 1 through 4 on the docket then?
Well, yeah, essentially, like I said, they're all kind of connected in a sense, right? Because like I said, this is all for the same property owner. So, you know, I know Mr. McCubbin has his position on it. So obviously, so we just feel that, I just feel that there is some additional land value in here, but not entirely. For example, if you look at parcel A, that's already got buildings on it. So the potential for really building on that would be, you know, using that land for anything else other than this. I don't think there's really much additional value in the land. If anything, the only ones would be B, C, and D. But for my rec, I've only really included B because I think that's the most probable use potential. So.
I'll leave it for the other two to ask the questions. I may come back to you in a minute.
Sure, no problem. Yeah, I understand.
Ms. Duncan, do you have any questions?
Yeah, so on page 1 for this roll number, the land area is 181,950.
Correct.
And is that inclusive of parcels A, B, C, D as well, or just 1755 Dugald?
Yeah, that's just the 1755 Dugald, or the roll number 0609 33340. So that's just that land in itself is 181,000. Yeah, that has nothing to do with those other pieces of land. Yeah.
Right. So you've put a value based on this presentation of 4,486,000, but what you're saying is there's some additions and deletions from that based on parcels A, B, C, D. Is there the potential that there is any type of double taxation somehow on that then? Because the overall value on this parcel has now been kind of, and I know you've tried your best to explain that. I just don't fully understand why you would include those other 4 parcels. I understand they're connected and they're used and they're blah, 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 but it certainly has muddied the water. And yeah, is there the potential for any type of double taxation of any of this? Or you feel based on your calculations that's been accounted for? Mind you, you've only minus 325,000 from the ABCD parcel, right?
Well, I've actually technically deducted 756,000. I'm just adding in 300. I'm just like essentially, instead of adding in 841 like on page 9, I'm actually just adding in 325. Because you have to look at the 1,080,000 deduct. Yeah, that's how. Yeah, exactly. But yes, I understand. Yes, there. You know, that's why I'm trying to account for. I'm sure Mr. McCubbin will go through his, and when he explains his presentation. But I tried my best to account for those other parcels that I don't think have any potential for development on them. So, but I get what you're saying. I understand what you're saying. It's hard to explain though. Yeah.
So let me just ask, and I don't know, Madam Chair, if it's appropriate or not, but why would we not just be focusing on this one roll right now? There's set square footage and then whatever adjustment on the 4486 without talking about the other 4 rolls. Like this is one roll. All the numbers are there except for the land valuation, the property valuation that you've put the full amount on. Like if you were to take the other 4 valuations out of your 4486, what would it be for this roll only?
Well, like I said, technically we're just, like I said, just based on the capitalized value, just on the income side of things, it would just be the 4,726,400. That would be technically the value. That if we didn't include any of this land issue, any of these land information, any of this land was included or not, anything yet.
What was that value again?
4,726,400. If you look on page 9 of my brief, under the capitalized value portion, that's where you can see what just the capitalized value would be your income value. So.
Okay, I'll keep listening. Thanks.
No problem.
Thank you.
Yeah, I
Ms.
jump
Duncan.
back in, Madam Chair.
Of course, Ms. Winograd.
So what you've done is you've reduced your original value by $240,000, essentially. Let's leave the excess land aside for a moment. You've gone from 4486 to 47264, correct?
No, technically it would be actually, like, as I stated before, it should be actually 3970, because like what I've done is taken the 47, let me just do this here, 4726400. And yeah, see, if I minus the land, if I deduct the $756 in land value, which I've stated, that's where it comes to the 3970400. So I'm not really changing anything in terms of the capitalized value. Like I said, unfortunately, the land is tied with it, so that's where it's getting really confusing, unfortunately. So
I don't know why you're trying to confuse us, Matthew. It would be so much easier if you just did it using the 5 roll numbers.
yeah, no, yeah.
There's a fair amount of obfuscation here. I'm, unlike Michelle, I'm more concerned about we're not taxing enough. There's no double taxation. We're not taxing enough in my view. How did you adjust your value write-up? Or you're saying you didn't adjust your value write-up to get to the capitalized rate? You're
Like I said,
adjusting the land values.
Exactly. The capitalized value, I haven't changed anything on. I'm just essentially trying to deduct that land value, because like I said, since we're assessing that land separately, like I was trying my best to just, make it so, yeah, I'll be honest, there's no really easy way to go through this, unfortunately. So, but this is how we've assessed it. We're trying to essentially say we're trying to say this land value has already been taken into account, on this roll, because this is all, it's owned by the same owner and they're using all the same land or whatever. So I'm trying my best to try to like account for that land already, so we're not double taxing, if you will. So, but
yeah, that's not what I'm worried about. I'm worried about that you're taxing it enough.
okay.
Mm-hmm. No, okay, I'm going to leave it there for now.
Okay, maybe Mr. McCubbin's presentation. Maybe you can go in a bit more.
Okay, so Mr. Harling, I am looking at your map on page 10.
Yes.
And I understand the capitalized value number, which,
Correct.
and I'm not looking at your rec right now. I'm just looking at kind of talking about your page 8.
Sure.
But so we have your capitalized value of $4,726,400.
Correct.
And I can do the math and see that parcel A, B, C, and D assessments have been deducted from that, right?
Yes, correct.
That's your adjustment of $1,080,000.
Correct.
So I understand that, recognizing it's one economic unit. And then we have this additional land value, which was originally 841.
Correct.
So is that additional land value then associated with this, essentially this 5th parcel, not with A, B, C, or D? It's with 1755 Dougal. That's where that comes in, because you can't add it back into A, B, C, or D. The assessment is what the assessment is.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, yeah.
So you're saying that of the file that is associated with 1755 Dougal, that bottom left hand triangular piece, that's where that additional land value comes in. The $325,000.
I don't know. No, unfortunately, I don't think that is the case. No, that's not unfortunately how it is. Like I said,
Okay.
yeah.
So you're saying that notwithstanding the assessments of A, B, C, or D, that 325 is associated with one of those parcels.
Correct. It's like essentially, it's essentially, if we look at them all, we're kind of taking a portion of those values. We're not taking it entirely. We're using just a portion of that total value. Because like I said, it's 1,081,000 if you add it all together, but we're only including a portion of that land value with all these together. I apologize. I don't have the exact number. I don't have the exact number of how to break it down like that.
So I think you said that parcel number B was the only one it really could be, given what is on there.
That's what's based on my recommendation. That's how I proceeded. Yes.
So notwithstanding the and I know we're not talking about parcel B right now, that's a different role, but we kind of have to because it's included in this one. Notwithstanding the assessment of $381, you're also saying, yeah, but there should be another 325 on there. Is that correct?
I mean, like yeah, I guess, I'm just trying my best how to explain this best. I
No, I
apologize.
know. And I know, and I'm sorry, we're all struggling with understanding it too. And maybe Mr. McCubbin can help us out when it gets to him, but in the meantime, we're all trying to wrap our brain around it.
Like I said, yeah, I'm just saying basically parcel B, like you said, I know it's currently assessed at 381. I'm just saying like as I stated and you mentioned that only that parcel I believe that parcel is the only piece that has some potential for additional land. But I'm only saying it's assessed, I'm only saying we should have $325,000 worth of value into that, if you will. That's kind of how I'm saying and explaining it. So if that makes sense, probably not, but
So we're deducting the 381 and saying, but no, it should have an additional 3.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. We've technically already deducted, but I'm just saying no. Well, I still think that it should be actually that. Yeah. You've got to said it right. That's kind of how I'm trying to portray it. Exactly. Yes.
Okay.
My comfort,
Sure,
my comfort level, Madam Chair, would be if Matthew backed off this convoluted calculation, did the value on 1755 Dugald, unless he tells us totally impossible. Give us a value as he has, and then give us a value as he has for the other 4 parcels of land. I would feel so much more comfortable.
But that's not the role that we're looking at. I mean, we have it done this way, and that's what the assessor is defending. So that's what we're looking at.
But he's presented 5 different roll numbers, correct?
Not really. Well, we can have a discussion about this separately, but there is an explanation. It is one economic unit. So it depends on what happens with those other 4. You're right. We have to look at those 2. So we'll see what happens with those other 4. Okay, let's move to Mr. McCubbin's presentation.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Hopefully I can clarify some of the confusion, Madam
Please.
Chair. So entering my board's evidence, if you turn to page 2 of the brief, Madam Chair, and my brief that I submitted encompasses all the file numbers associated with this property as one economic unit. So I'll speak from one brief here in regards to the value in its entirety. So the property address is 1755 Dugald Road. That's the main holding. That is the holding actually that has, and that roll number is, as Mr. Harlan said, is 06-09 333 and 4 zeros. And that encompasses all the buildings on site. So we have a total leasable area of 75,240 square feet. You will see the actual realty assessments associated with this economic unit at my 2023 realty assessments. 4,486,000 for the main roll number, 129,000 for roll number 0609332990, 374,000 for roll number 0901042120, 197,000 for 06093329,800, and finally 381,000 for roll number 090104211100. So what the city has done here, Madam Chair, is they have actually the buildings straddle 2 roll numbers. If you look at and I believe Mr. Harlan said this. If you look at the buildings, they straddle 2 roll numbers. They straddle
What page are you on?
Sorry, if you look at page 8 of my presentation.
Thank you.
The buildings straddle 2 roll numbers. So the roll number in question, the main roll number is 06 09333 and 4 zeros. That's in the municipality of St. Boniface. And then the line, the boundary line, it runs right through the property, and the roll number above, which contains some of these buildings, also is in Transcona. So we can't really, the assessment department really can't merge those two roll numbers. That's why it's separated. But they've put all the buildings on one roll number, which is fine, and that's a good way of doing it because it's all the same ownership. Now, so that roll number in Transcona consists of 3 acres, and the assessed value is $374,000. If you look at to the right of the page, where Mr. Harlan attempted to put additional value, that roll number is again in Transcona, 09010421100, and that's 3.1 acres, and it's currently assessed at $381,000. That's essentially landlocked, and it's part of the economic unit. It's not fronting on Dougal or anything. The other 2 parcels front on Dougal, and they're at the bottom of the page there, and they're in Transcona because they're below that the boundary line there. And their roll numbers 06093329,900, assessed at $129,000, consisting of 0.326 acre. And 0609332980, assessed at $197,000, and for a lot size of approximately half an acre. So in our view, Madam Chair, when you look at this map, it clearly shows that this is one economic unit. The land to building ratio is within reason for properties along Dougal. In fact, if you turn to page 6 of my presentation, I do believe I have it laid out to some extent here with respect to the total acreage as it relates to the entire property. So I'll go through this property. The main holding, as you may well know, is all fab building components, and they construct roof systems, floor systems, wall systems, and engineered beams for mainly residential homes. And on site, they do store their product, which is RTMs, the RTM ready to move homes and cottages. You can see that it's stored on, if you look at page 8, you can see they're stored in a sort of semicircular fashion on the right of that page, and the straddling 3 roll numbers. And also on inspection, this site is heavily used by the owner, and it's all needed. The land is all needed. There's no excess land here, Madam Chair, and the land to building ratio is well within reason for an operation like this. So going back to page 6, it's an industrial office warehouse complex located at 1755 Dougal Road. And all the improvements have been assessed as part of the main holding in my presentation. The total value of the separately assessed lands on the roll numbers, and I won't go through that, we've discussed that before, must accordingly be deducted from the income-based value of the main holding. And that's our contention. So we value the income for the main holding, which actually some of the buildings straddle that roll number in Transcona, but we value it on the main holding in St. Boniface, that holding being 06-09333 and 4 zeros. So we value it all in that roll number, and then we deduct the remaining lands from that roll number, which is appropriate. And this is the way you would do an economic unit as it's associated with this with the subject property. The land to building ratio taken into consideration all associated parcels is 6.46 to 1, very reasonable for properties in this general vicinity. And for industrial operations of this nature. So there's no additional or excess lands with respect to this property. And you see a breakdown of the buildings were constructed in from 1950 right to 1997 with their corresponding plan areas, Madam Chair, and a percentage of the total value or percentage of the total square foot that they add to the overall building size or leasable area of 75,240 square feet. As shown above, over 65% of the improvements were constructed on or before 1978. An overall effective age of 1977 has been assigned to the property by the assessor. And we agree with that. That's a reasonable assumption. The total land area for all the parcels on which the improvements form a single economic unit is 11.16 acres. So the entire operation is 11.16 acres in totality, and you can see the breakdown of the land sizes as it relates to each and every roll number there, including the main roll, main holding at roll number 06, 09, 333, and 4 zeros. As shown on the aerial maps below, the land area used by the owner operator far exceeds the main parcel. They also use parcels to the east and north of the main roads as part of their operation. Now, I must say, I don't think if anything, the assessment and taxation department can merge 3 pieces of property, but to merge properties, Madam Chair, you have to have the same ownership in land titles, and I can see that they're varying ownerships, but all the same owner, but they're registered under different ownership, so you can't merge them all together, and that may be one of the reasons why the numbers associated in St. Boniface are not merged together, but that's neither here nor there. We can still deal with it, but for sure, if they were all titled the same, the St. Boniface holdings could be merged to make it, for administrative purposes, be a little bit more less cumbersome to deal with. So that is the operations as you see on page 8. They use every bit of the site, and I've inspected this property for this hearing, and I've been on this property many years ago too, Madam Chair, so I'm very familiar with the site. Now, going specifically to my income summary as it relates to the main holding, which contains the buildings that are partially on the Transcona roll number. I'll start on page 14. For the purposes of this report, the leasable area is 75,240. It includes the mezzanine area. We essentially agree with the city with respect to the land, to the rate they placed at 513. So we'll leave it at that. We've applied a vacancy rate of 4% in our evaluation for the subject property. Shortfall rate, we're in agreement at $3.85 being an industrial property. However, we do not agree with the non-recoverable expenses. We have the non-recoverable expenses of management and other of 7% in total. And I'm sure you've had this hearing previously. And we're continuing to apply an allowance of 7% of the effective market income in our valuation of the subject property. With respect to the capitalization rate chosen, Madam Chair, we differ from the city. We're at 25 basis points, I believe, higher than the city. Yes, we are. The city's at 7.5. We're at 7.75%. And Below, you have a rationale on page 15 with respect to the capitalization rate. And continuing on page 16, where it shows the investment category, we feel that the investment category is more of a class B rather than a class A. And we've bumped that up to 25 basis points higher than our highest rate in class B. So if you look at page 17 of my presentation, Madam Chair, it's fairly straightforward. We have all fab, all the buildings on site, including the mezzanine area at $75,240, and the same assessed net rent as the assessment and taxation department 513. We've applied a vacancy allowance of 4%. In regard to the vacancy, we've atoned for that vacant space in terms of a shortfall amount of $11,587 using the $3.85 per square foot for vacant space. The non-recoverable expense we have at 5% and other at 2% structural, giving us a total expense allowance of $37,525. Removing that from the effective market income, we arrive at a net operating income of $333,017 as the net operating income. Capitalizing that NOI at 7.75%, Madam Chair, we arrive at a total value for the entire operations, and this is encompassing the entire lands and buildings on this site, all roll numbers, as I've spoken about, and all file numbers associated with it. We've come up with a value of $4,297,000 rounded. From that, we have made a single adjustment for all the lands, and we're agreeing with the land value that the city has purported to put on this property. There's no dispute with respect to the land values. The total land value is $1,081,000 rounded, Madam Chair. So in order to atone for those lands that are assessed at different roll numbers, we have to deduct it from the main holding. So in deducting it from the $4,297,000, we arrive at a specific value for this roll number, the main holding of $3,216,000 in total. So we're asking the board to reduce the value of this specific roll number, Madam Chair, 06-09333 and 4 zeros. We're asking the board to reduce that value to $3,215,000 or $3,216,000 in total, and confirming the remaining values on the land associated with this holding. And that's my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McCubbin. Mr. Harling, do you have any questions?
Yeah, yeah, I understand, like, you know, your income workups and such and everything like that. So what are we, I think you kind of answered it, but can you give me a little breakdown of why you believe that the total holdings of the land should be all deducted like that exactly?
Okay, our rationale is that it forms one economic unit, and the land to building ratio is well within reason for this part of the city and this type of operation on Dougal Road. It's not out of line, the land to building ratio. So all the associated roll numbers for this operation should be deducted from the main holding, which and the associated roll numbers are all vacant land. And that's all atoned for in the original income summary of this property. So if you look at the original income summary on page 17 of my brief, my original value is $4,297,000 in totality.
I understand that.
It speaks to the value of all the lands and all the buildings on the site. But from there, what I've done is I've deducted $1,081,000 from that to atone for the separate assessment of these different parcels with the vacant land.
So then I guess my just thought is, so if you're deducting this 1,081,000 of all those assessments, even though I know they're assessed individually, wouldn't that be like putting no value? I guess you're putting no value on them at all, basically, I guess, since you're deducting it from the main holdings, I guess.
No, I'm not, Madam Chair. It's not that I'm not bringing any value to those properties. What I'm saying is the value is already atoned for in the main holding by the income approach to value being a reasonable land to building ratio. We can look at this property, Madam Chair, if we didn't have that boundary line and it was all one roll number and it weren't in two different municipalities on the one roll number, that's the way we're looking at it. But we're left with a situation where we have 5 different roll numbers and we have to atone for that. We have to deduct it from the main holding. It's fairly straightforward.
I like that straightforward. But, okay, those are the questions I have then. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Whitbread,
No, thank you. I have none.
Ms. Duncan,
Yeah, so your cap rate is 7.75, and I believe your explanation was you're placing it in a Class B versus a Class A. Just what qualities require the adjustment to the Class B based on your 7.75 cap?
Right. When we look at a Class A sort of investment, Madam Chair, we're looking at, for industrial purposes, we're looking mainly like a single masonry constructed type warehouse, all under one roof. Good construction in generally very in say an industrial park area. We have many buildings on site spread out here, so we do have a total area of over 75,000 square feet in totality. But we have the buildings spread out on site, which is sometimes less desirable for investment purposes. And also they're all steel buildings, Madam Chair, as opposed to masonry constructed buildings. And we feel that an appropriate cap rate of 7.75 is fair for this property.
Thank you. One other question. So somewhere, I think it is at the very first page. Let me just get back up there. So you have suggested confirming the values of the other 4 parcels, like the other 4 rolls, consistent with what the city valued them separately on the rolls. So you're agreeing and confirming the other 4 rolls value consistent with the city. Is that safe to say?
That is correct, Madam Chair. I'm asking the board to confirm all the values that are vacant land that you will deal with now, or maybe you won't, because I've dealt with it in my brief, and the assessor also has dealt with it and filed those evidence. So I don't think we have to go through those land values. We agree with the land values. I'm asking the board to confirm those land values at those specific roll numbers. There are 2 in Transcona and the other 2 down below in St. Boniface. Confirming those values, but by confirming those values, we're deducting it from the main holding.
Right.
By the income approach.
I got that. Yeah. Thank you. No other questions.
okay, I actually have a redirect to Mr. Harling. Mr. Harling, you asked the question of Mr. McCubbin about the deduction. It's essentially, to that point, it's exactly what the city did, correct? Of the deduction of $1,081,000.
Yeah, if you look at our initial brief, yeah, and the initial work
Right.
is correct. Yes.
You to that point, you're both recognizing that this is one economic unit. You're taking the value out of this larger main holding because it is accounted for in the other 4 pieces, correct?
Yeah, I guess, yeah.
So do you agree that that's what you've both done?
that's how we've done our income, but as I said, we've added additional land value
Yes.
back in personally, but
That's where there is a difference. You've
yes,
added
correct.
additional land value. Mr. McCubbin has not added it back in for his reasons that he explained.
Yes,
So
that's
basic
exactly it.
methodology is the same up until that point of the additional land value coming back in.
Yeah, that would be the best way to look at it. Yes, correct.
Okay, I just wanted to understand that. I knew that your processes were the same. Just you differ on a couple of little pieces.
Yeah, I apologize. I knew it was going to be complex.
Yeah,
so-
no, that's fine. I just need to make it straight in my own brain too, because it is a little complicated. This is a little picky thing, Mr. McCubbin. Why a 4% vacancy, not a 3%?
That's based on what we've in our study.
Yes,
Yes, we use 4% and the city is using.
you use 4% for what?
Yes, for industrial property.
For industrial properties? Compared to the city's model vacancy of
Yes.
3, okay?
Correct. Yeah, so that's the difference there. And the other difference obviously is the non-recoverable
Yes.
expense difference
And
and the difference in cap rate.
That's
So that,
right.
those are the differences, but we do agree on the rent.
okay. I think, does anybody else have any other questions for Mr. McCubbin?
I'm good.
No? Okay. Mr. Harling, do you desire summation?
I mean, I think the board knows my position with this, so I'm just going to leave it like that. Yeah. So.
Okay, thank you, Mr. McCubbin.
I as well, Madam Chair. I think you have it well in hand now to see that we're sort of, yeah. I think you have it well in hand.
Okay, all right, then let's go back to file number, or item number 1, which is file 222321. Mr. Harlan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I guess first thing I would like to note is, I know Mr. McCubbin kind of mentioned with these ones. So do you want me to go through the whole presentation? I guess I know we've kind of discussed them because these are all part of the main holdings and stuff, but I can still go through the whole presentation if you'd like.
Well,
but
for the record, we do need to introduce them and you need to
Okay.
tell us the file information and the assessment.
Okay.
And then what that rate is based on, and then we'll go, then I can stop you at that point.
okay, sure. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay,
The file number is 22-2321. The roll number is 0609332900 or 9900. The address is Dougal Road, and the owner is AB Comp Holdings Limited and All Fab Buildings Components Incorporated. The 2023 assessed value based on a reference date of April 1st, 2021 is $129,000. Bottom page 1 of my brief, you'll just see this is a land area for this particular parcel is 14,231 square feet. Going to page, if you just want to go to page 2 and 3 quick, this is just the photos of the piece of land I've highlighted. We've already spoken to this, so I don't think there's much in going into that. Page 4 is just the current assessed value, $128,000. Page 5 is just the zoning. And then just page 6 is the actual subject information. And again, the total land available area is 14,231 square feet, and we're applying a land rate of $9.06 a square foot. Which gives us the $129,000.
thank you. That's great. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. McKeven,
I have no questions, Madam Chair.
I believe in your presentation, you were
Yeah.
going to accept.
I'm accepting all the values that are presented in the remaining roll numbers, Madam Chair.
Okay,
We just need them deducted from the main.
so you're requesting that this value be confirmed?
Requesting that this value be confirmed, yes.
Thank you very much. Mr. Whitred, do you have any questions?
Nope, I'm fine, thank you.
Ms. Duncan?
No questions, thank you.
Okay, I think then that concludes item number 1. Item number 2 on our agenda is file number 22-2322. Mr. Harley, when you're ready, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The file number is again 22-2322. The roll number is 09010421200. The address is Duke Road, and the owners are AB Comp Holdings and AB Fab Buildings Components. The 2023 assessed value based on a reference date of April 1st, 2021 is $374,000. Going to page 1 of your brief, you'll just see this is zoned M1 and the total land area is 103,562 square feet. And if we just skip to page 6 of my brief, this is just the comparables. Again, the land area is 130,562 square feet, and we're applying a land rate of $2.86 a square foot, which gives us the value of $374,000.
Thank you, Mr. Harlan. Mr. McCubbin.
Again, Madam Chair, I ask that this value be confirmed.
Okay.
You're in agreement with that?
Thank you. Mr. Whitbread, any questions?
No questions, thank you.
Ms. Duncan, any questions?
No questions, thank you.
Thank you. That concludes item number 2 on our agenda. Okay, let me just catch up to item number 3 on our agenda. Mr. Harlan, when you're ready, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The file number is 22-2323. Roll number is 06093329-800. The owner again is AB Comp Holdings Limited and AB All Fab Building Components Incorporated. The 2023 assessed value based on the reference date of April 1st, 2021 is $197,000. Let's go to page 1 of the brief. You'll see the zoning is M1 and the land area is 26,059 square feet. And if we just turn to page 6 of my brief, again, we'll just see that we're land area is again 26,059 square feet, and we're applying a land rate of $7.56 a square foot, which gives us the value of $197,000.
Thank you, Mr. Harlan. Mr. McCubbin.
Thanks, Madam Chair. We'd ask the board to confirm that assessed value. $197,000.
Thank you very much. Mr. Whitbread, do you have any questions?
I don't, thank you.
Ms. Duncan?
No questions, thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, go to item number 4 on our agenda. Mr. Harlan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The file number is 22-2324. The roll number is 09104211100. The owner is AB Comp Holdings Limited and All Fab Building Components Incorporated. 2023 assessed value based on a reference date of April 1st, 2021 is $381,000. Page 1 of my brief, you'll just at the bottom, you'll see it's a zoned M1 and the land area is 133,862 square feet. And then just go to page 6 of my brief, you'll see we are applying a land rate of $2.85 a square foot, which gives us the value of $381,000.
Thank you very much, Mr. Harlan.
Thanks, Madam Chair. We would ask that the board confirm this value of $381,000 from this roll. Chair.
Thank you very much. Mr. Whitbread, do you have any questions?
I have none, thank you.
Thank you very much. Ms. Duncan?
No questions, thank you.
Thank you so much. And that concludes item number 4 on our agenda. So, Kevin, I believe you are now done for the morning.
Thanks. Yes, Madam Chair. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks. Thanks, Mr. Harley.
And we will, let's just recess. Or Mr. Harling, are you still around for the next few?
I will be still here, yes. Ryan will be doing the other ones, but I'll still be here, so.
Okay, let's adjourn for 5 minutes, please. Thank you. Or recess, I guess. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Madam Chair, you're live. Thank you very much. I'd like to call the meeting back to order. Before we begin, Ms. Carnegie, can you please affirm Mr. Story?
I sure can. Mr. Story, please state your full name.
My name is Jared Story.
You affirm that the evidence you're about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. We are resuming our agenda with item number 6. That's file number 22-2895, 999 Fife Street. Mr. San Juan, when you're ready, please.
Thank you. File number is 222895. Roll number is 1404 156 1100. Address is 999 Fife Street. Roll year is 2023. Reference date April 1st, 2021. Assessed value is $1,011,000. Parcel use warehouse. Number of buildings 1. Number of premises 1. Number of stories 1. Actual year built 1973. Effective year built 1978. Wall height 16 feet. Zoning is M2. Land area is 14,602 square feet. Plan area is 7,051 square feet. Leasable area is 7,051 square feet. Land to plan area is 2.07. And let's turn to page 3. Subject property is in Inkster Industrial Park near Redwood and Fife Street. The bottom picture is just an overview of the property. We'll take note of those white vehicles on the right side there. I'll be speaking to that. Page 4 and 5 are some more pictures, street views, and aerial views from different angles. So page 4 in the second picture is, you'll see the Manitoba Hydro's lot. The owner is leasing it from Manitoba Hydro, where those cars are in the second picture there. I'll get to the documents to show you that on page 15 and 16. Let's turn to page 6. This is the workup. Total leasable area is 7,051 square feet. The total potential rent is $58,171. The model rent is $8.25 per square foot. The vacancy model rate is 4%. We're utilizing 3% for non-recoverable expenses and $3.85 per square foot for vacancy shortfall. This results in an NOI of $53,083. Utilizing a cap rate of 5.25%, results in a rounded assessed value of $1,011,000. Going to page 7, these are the rent comparables. These comparables are what the net model rent is based on, the actual rents from the market. All leases are current in relation to the reference date, which range from 2014 to 2020. Effective year built range from 1952 to 1988. Average wall heights range from 12 feet to 18 feet. Leasable areas range from approximately 6,000 square feet to 10,000 square feet. Net rents range from $8.25 per square foot to $12.75 per square foot. Page 8 is the capitalization rate chart. Page 9 is the Municipal Assessment Act. Page 10 and 11 is the income and expense mailer. Just want to note here, the owner checked off fully owner occupied with a gross total rent income of $68,400. But if we turn to page 12 and 13, which is the actual income statement, they show $68,400 with no recoverables used. Page 13 is the tenant list, also shows $68,400 annual rent based on the monthly rent stated. The box here is also checked for net lease. Page 15, this is the lease of Manitoba Hydro property for the parking lot I was talking to in those pictures. Page 17 and 18 is the COVID questionnaire. So we feel this value is fair and equitable and respectfully ask the board to confirm. Open to any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Story, do you have any questions?
I have a few questions, Madam Chair. Yes, thank you. Thank you, Mr. San Juan. So I guess firstly, can we establish that this property is indeed completely owner occupied?
I guess like it would, I guess they don't really, I mean, they've checked off owner occupied, but I mean, we don't, other than that, we don't, I guess we can't say for certain. I mean, they have checked off net, but I mean, unless you have some information you can provide, I guess, or.
Oh, well, okay. Well, it is, I can tell you verbally, it is indeed owner occupied. Now, in terms of this property, the history of this property, this was an auto center, and it was two buildings. This was called Sid's Car Care, and it was this property and the property immediately to the north, and they were sold individually. So they're former body shops. Are you aware of that?
I'm not aware of that, no.
Okay. And in terms of that actual versus effective year built, do you have any idea of what gave rise to that 5-year adjustment? Were there some permits, or was there an inspection done, or what would have adjusted that effective age by only 5 years?
I believe there, I mean, just looking at the notes here, I think there may have been a permit. Let me just check here. Inspected. Apologize. The only thing I can think would be based on a permit, but unfortunately, I don't have the information regarding that at this time, so I can't say for certain. Apologize. So. Okay.
That wall height at 16 feet, that's measured from the exterior, correct?
That would be the exterior, yes.
Okay. And when we account for the joists, we typically lose about 2 feet, so those would be 14-foot clear heights. Is that a fair comment?
I mean, I haven't inspected, so I can't say for certain, but yeah, so.
Okay. And that would be very, very low in today's industrial market, would it not? 14-foot clear heights?
I mean, I don't
Depends
dispute
on
it would
the
be,
use.
I mean, I don't dispute it would be lower, obviously,
Okay.
but, you know, sells use, so yeah.
Okay. All right. So I'm sorry, did you look up permits for this property? Yeah, in anticipation of this hearing today?
I don't have any, did we look at permits, right? I don't know.
I did look at permits into this. I couldn't find any. I would have included it if it was relevant for the.
Okay, so, but just so we're clear, since this owner took ownership, they fixed a backflow device and they installed CCTV and a burglar alarm. That's what the permits show, correct? Did you
I
find
don't
that
know
in your
about-
research?
yeah,
Okay.
No.
Okay. All right. Land to plan here is extremely low at just a touch over 2 to 1. Can we agree that that's very, very low?
It's typically lower than the typical 4 to 1, but yeah, it's still, you know, yeah, I don't think it's extremely low, but yeah, it's a slightly lower, yes, so.
Well, okay. So we're just at the very edge of the Inkster Industrial Park, and we would expect to see something between, like you said, 3 or 4 to 1, something like that, correct?
It would be ideal. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. All right. And then you mentioned too, the parking. Now that is Hydro's lot. You're quite correct. But are you aware that that's classified as a substation because the power corridor, those towers on Redwood, I suppose, to the north and Boyd to the south, they have the big exchangers and there's power lines running through those lots, correct?
I believe so. Yes.
Okay, so they require that parking, but they are not in control of it. They don't own it, correct?
They don't know.
Okay. Now, just very quickly, the page 6, that's all model derived, all those parameters. Is that fair?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, and can we agree at a minimum that 5.25, that would be exceptionally low based on what the city's suggesting and certainly based on what the brokers are suggesting for industrial properties. Is that fair comment?
I would support the model based on age, size, and location.
Okay, but okay, that's fine. Now, you said these comps support the rental rate. Did you select these, Mr. San Juan?
I did not.
Okay, so just so we're very, very clear, though, I just want to go through these, and some of these will actually appear in other on some of the other files today. So I'll spend a little bit of time on this now, but we'll just sort of harken back to them as they appear again. 1,500. No, I guess firstly, can we agree that Well, none of these are in the, well, I guess, number 4, church, but 5 of the 6 are not indeed in the Inkster Industrial Park. Is that correct?
That's correct, yes.
Okay, and 1500 Notre Dame, that's our client. That unit, that's the well, it's a healthcare professional association. So that I guess call it the character of that space would be more office than typical industrial. Are you aware of that?
I'm aware of that building. Yes, I'm aware of that. Yes. So.
Okay, and okay, perfect. And you know that there's an enterprise that works with textiles and another that works with foam, and they're both in at $6.50, and those are more typical industrial tenancies, correct?
I'm not aware of that, so I can't speak that specifically. But yes.
Okay. And that address on Dublin, in your system, that actually comes up as 1555 St. James, and that's the Southern Chiefs organization. So that again is more of a, call it a flex office, as opposed to a pure industrial. Is that fair?
Yes, I believe there's some office in that one. Yes.
Okay, and number 3 on Hecla, that's out at Oak Park Highway. That's now I don't know about that one, but the land to building would be superior to be certain, and it's also next to a retention pond and a park. Is that, you aware of that?
Yeah, that one I'm aware. It does have a higher land to building ratio. Correct. Yes. Okay.
And number 4 is also an office. That's an organization, a not-for-profit, who I believe they help folks with intellectual disabilities find housing. That's that tenancy. Is that correct?
On which one are we speaking to, sorry?
Number 4.
1551 Church, or?
Yeah, that
Okay.
tenancy at church. They're called Spike Inc. And so they're not what we'll call a typical industrial tenancy. Are you aware of that?
I wasn't aware of that. Yes, that was a tenant there. That's correct. Yes, I'm aware of that. Yes, correct.
Okay. Number 5, is that owner occupied? Are you certain that that's a leased premise? I couldn't find anything about it, but I thought it might be.
We have we get all the rents from mailers, so
Okay.
I did double check the mailer. I understand it's slightly high, but that's what they've indicated. So
And that's a group of electricians where they do consulting and such, correct?
it's a power electric company, correct? Yes.
And then the last one, now those folks have been there for about 20 years. They're on St. James. That's Metro Propane. So that's the one where they have that huge outdoor propane tank, but they also have a showroom where they sell propane appliances. Is that correct? So it has a bit of a retail component, correct?
That is correct. That's the tenant that's in there. Yes, I won't dispute that.
Okay. So with all that being said, those are not, I mean, just objectively, those would all have a slightly different character, let's say, than a former body shop who are now doing pneumatics and hydraulic hose fittings, correct?
I'll agree. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Yeah. You know what? I think that those are my questions, and I thank you both.
Thank you, Mr. Story. Ms. Duncan, do you have any questions?
No question. Or yes, actually I do. If we go to your cap rate, you're just below your 20th percentile on this property. It's a 1978 effective date. Was that the intent to be less than the 20th percentile? Like what would put it there?
It is model derived, and our cap rates, all our cap rates are derived from actual sales in the market. So we're not using specific sales. So when we look at similar properties that they're selling for, that's what we would have based that cap rate on. So.
Right. Okay, great. Thank you. No other questions.
Thank you, Ms. Duncan. Mr. Whitbread? You are on mute.
My apologies. No, I have none.
Okay, and I have no questions either. So, Mr. Story, on to your presentation, please.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. So again, we are at 9995. I do note that this is the very, very edge of the Inkster Industrial Park. When you cross the street and look at the city's parameters, it becomes Shaughnessy Park across the street. So we're at the very, very edge of the Inkster Industrial Park. This is the former Sid's Car Care. They had 2 buildings, they sold them, and now our client is an owner-occupied operation where they're using that former body shop for hose fittings for hydraulics. So that's what goes on in this property. We established here that we have very low ceiling heights. We have a very low land to building. We have an issue with parking where the owner is they have to rent parking from the from Manitoba Hydro for the from that lot behind them, and they also you can see on page 7 there's a tiny little sliver between the southern hydro lot and the northern hydro lot. There's a very small sliver. They had to purchase that as well, and that's part of. We haven't made a deduction. It's a very low value, but it is sort of an interesting property in that regard, and that they own that little sliver and they have to lease their parking. So ultimately, again, the building is built in 73. I'm not sure what gave rise to an effective age of 1978, but I don't know that that's completely material to any adjustment that we might make. Now, the one issue that we have here, or the first issue, is the rent. So we've included a number of comps. They are in the Inkster Industrial Park. They are indeed from the call it the early to middle 1970s up until the late 1980s. Leasable area is very similar. The rents are fresh as of the reference date, either by their actual start date or by steps. And I'll just point your attention to the first one. I think that's my best comp. It's right down the street on Fife. Very similar land to building at only 2.2 to 1. It has superior wall heights at 31 feet, and they're in at 538. Now it's a slightly larger space. So all this to say, we've applied $6.50. You'll see from our comp table here that our average is 643 and our median is 650. So we've used the median. Median's a pretty good indicator of if your comps are selected appropriately, then the median should get rid of any call them outliers. And so we feel very strongly that 650 makes sense for this property, given this use, given the location, given some of the issues. In terms of the shortfall rate, I don't think shortfall will be in dispute today. I think we've both applied $3.85, so that should be fine. Typically, vacancy and collection loss, we are using 4%. I believe at the reference date in the Northwest, it should be somewhere around it's either 3.6 or 3.8, but we do consider collection loss as we ought to. Collection loss should be considered in the valuation of this property. So 4% is what we've used here today. I don't know that we will be worlds apart on that from the model either. Now, in terms of the non-recoverables, you've been provided with our study. You've all heard this before. I can go into it in great detail, Madam Chair. I could just summarize it very quickly. How would you like me to proceed?
I think we'll do.
Wonderful. Okay, yeah, so you're all well aware of our position. We have provided you with our study. As you know, our position is that non-recoverables should be included. They're non-reimbursed costs borne by owners in the competent ownership of income-producing properties. They're not management fees. And again, we do point out that prior to the previous cycle, the assessor was in agreement. We followed the same methodology, but there was some change. And that's, the previous methodology that we continue to apply, we believe is appropriate, and it's rooted in principles and rooted in valuation and appraisal theory. So we consider space marketing costs, which include inducements and leasing costs. And our study outlines all of this, and our submission gives examples from other jurisdictions in Canada. I will also point out that the provincial assessor, continues to apply the 5% non-recoverable expense and the 2% structural reserve. 2%, of course, is typical of market. So just to summarize, the study that we've provided includes operating statements that were reviewed between the years 2018 and 2020. And we've considered leasing commissions, professional fees, asset management fees, and advertising. When we exclude inducements, we average 6.64 with a median of 5.98. And then when we include TIs for, as part of the exercise, those averages and medians become much higher. So these results are very similar to the research exercise that we completed in the previous cycle for the exact same purpose. And we believe that our request to continue to instate the 5% of EGI for non-recoverables is supported, and 2%, of course, dedicated to structural allowances is also supported. So just lastly, cap rates in our study, which I'll speak about next. All of the cap rates that we've included here are calculated using 5% for non-recoverables, and 2% for the structural reserve. So if for any reason you believe that the 5% ought not to be included, we would ask that the cap rates be adjusted by a quarter point, as removing the or adjusting the 5% to 1%, as the city is suggesting, does have the average effect of adjusting the cap rate by 35 basis points. So mathematically, to ensure we continue to compare apples to apples, we would ask once again that if you do not believe the non-recoverables ought to be included, that the cap rates we're requesting today be adjusted by a quarter point. Over to the cap rates. So you've also been included our cap rate study. We've included a number of sales for you. We've looked to the brokers to determine the appropriate cap rate compression from the previous cycle, and we've summarized our findings in each of our briefs. But you do have the standalone study titled Altus Industrial Cap Rate Study for 2023. I think we all have a little bit of cap rate fatigue at this point, but this stage of the cycle. But you all have that document. I'm happy to speak to it, but it has been summarized for you. So for this property, we've mentioned some concerns: low ceiling heights, low land to building, the dependence on having to lease parking. However, we have put it right in the middle of what we'll call our, or I guess maybe the low end even of what we'll call our Class Bs at 6.5%. The reason being that we don't want to, we're using a reasonably low rent, which I think is probably, we don't want to double count by adjusting the cap rate too high and end up with a value that is that's distorted. So we've used 6.5%. It is a smaller building. It is in an industrial park, which is a positive. And it would likely cater to a wide potential range of end users. So we feel very comfortable with the 6.5% cap rate. Ultimately, on page 15, when we take all of these points together, we come to an NOI of $39,833. I point out that we haven't made any consideration for the requirement to lease parking, nor have we made any adjustment for that small sliver of land. We think we've come to a very fair value at $621,808. I'm sorry, $612,808, which we then round to $613,000. And I suppose that is the crux of my presentation. And again, we do respectfully submit that the value at the reference date not exceed $613,000. And with that, I'm open to your questions, and I thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Story. Mr. San Juan, do you have any questions for Mr. Story?
We have no questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Whitbread, do you have any questions?
Just one point of clarification, perhaps, and I may have missed something here. We have a mailer that shows an owner occupied. I think we said it was an owner occupied at $5,700 a month for a $68,400 annual rental income.
Yes, it is indeed owner occupied, so that would be considered a book rent, internal rent. So it's not a market rent. So it is indeed owner occupied. Yes.
So you went to a market rent, if I understand your number correctly.
Absolutely, yes.
And
supported by comparables in the market in the Inkster Industrial Park. Yes.
Yes, and Mr. San Juan used the model. Okay, that's clear for me. Thank you. No further questions.
Thank you, Mr. Whitbread. Ms. Duncan, do you have any questions?
No questions, thank you.
Thank you, and I have no questions. Mr. San Juan, do you desire summation?
No, thank you.
Mr. Story?
No, I think we're good, Madam Chair. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, that concludes item number 6 on our agenda. Just get my files open here. Okay, item number 7 on our agenda, file number 22-2141, 1389 Niagara Road East. Mr. San Juan.
Thank you. Roll number is 0604-042-7000. Roll year is 2023. Reference date is April 1st, 2021. Assessed value is $1,011,000. Parcel use, warehouse. Number of buildings 1. Number of premises 2. Number of stories 1. Actual year and effective year built is 1978. Wall height 15 feet. Zoning M1. Land area, 81,949 square feet. Plan area, 9,000 square feet. Leasable area, 9,000 square feet. Land to plan area, 9.11. Let's turn to page 3. The subject area or subject property is near the Mint, near Fermor and Lagimodia, near St. Boniface Industrial Park. There's a picture of an overhead there. Page 4 and 5, more aerial views at different angles. Page 5 is the exterior and overhead doors. Page 6 and 7 are some interior pictures. Page 8 is also interior pictures, mezzanine. Page 9 is the workup. The total leasable area is 9,000 square feet. Total potential rent is $64,530. The model blended rent is $7.17 per square foot. The vacancy model rate is 3%. We're utilizing 3% for non-recoverable expenses and $3.85 per square foot for vacancy shortfall. This results in an NOI of $59,676. Utilizing a cap rate of 5.9%, results in a rounded assessed value of $1,011,000. Page 10 is the rent comparables. These comparables are what the net rent model is based on, and actual rents from the market. All leases are current in relation to the reference date, which range from 2016 to 2020. Effective year built ranges from 1956 to 2008. Average wall heights range from 12 feet to 17 feet. Leasable areas range from approximately 3,500 square feet to 10,000 square feet. Net rents range from $7 per square foot to $13 per square foot. Page 11 is the capitalization rate chart. Table second from the top are the industrial capitalization rates. The stated rates fall between the 20th and 80th percentile. As you can see, the subject property's capitalization rates falls between this. Our model cap rates are further supported by the table of outside sources. Page 12 is the Municipal Act Assessment Act. Page 13 and 14 is the income and expense mailer. Shows partially owner occupied. And we feel this value is fair and equitable and respectfully ask the board to confirm. Open to any questions.
Thank you, Mr. San Juan. Mr. Story, do you have any questions?
Just a few. Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. So, Mr. San Juan, this is indeed in, so you'd mentioned the St. Boniface industrial area, but this is indeed in Symington Yards, and it's just south of the rail track of the tracks, right?
That's right, yes.
Okay.
Near St. Boniface.
And it's a very irregular parcel. Can we agree on that? It's a very long and sort of skinny parcel.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
so that might have some, well, it has a very good land to building ratio, but the irregularity of the parcel, would you agree that may have some, cause some impediments to further development for certain uses, perhaps?
I'd say on page 3, if you look there, some of the pictures there, they are utilizing that space from what I can see, and they are able to extend it further if they need to.
Okay, and it looks like it's gravel, that drive, so it's not high quality from the looks of it. Is that fair?
From what they're using it, yes, now.
Yeah, and the wall heights 12 to 15 feet, so that's 12 feet in the office, 15 feet in the warehouse, but the 15 feet again is measured from the outside, and that would be slightly lower based on joist and lighting. Is that fair?
I'll agree.
Yeah. Okay. And then 78 is the actual year built, effective year 78. Does that lead us to believe that there's no permitted work that the department's aware of that would warrant an adjusted age to the effective useful life of the property?
I've looked at the permits and couldn't find anything relevant, no.
Okay. And just so we're clear, just so that the board is aware, the tenant, so that's a very short-term lease, but it's year to year, and that's a religious cable channel who have their offices there, and then they use the storage warehouse in the back for props and that sort of thing, right?
I'll agree.
Yeah, that's
Yep.
correct.
Yep. Okay. And this again, so this is all modeled on page 9. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And is there anything in evidence, and I won't belabor this, but is there anything in evidence to support the city's expense ratio this cycle? Is there any study that's been made available to the panel members or the taxpayer?
There's nothing been available. However, we understand your position on it, but from what we're finding in the market, we've seen that 3% is adequate, and for what we've seen from all the income expense measures that we get. So we have not provided anything, but that's our position on that still. So.
Okay, so no submission and then no rebuttal to the Altus study either, correct?
Well, we don't agree with it, but yes, we're not rebutting anything. So yeah.
Okay.
So.
And the cap rate, there are no sales for the taxpayer or their agents or for the panel members to review to verify the city's position on the cap rates. Is that a fair comment?
We do not have any sample cap rates. No, we're just again, our cap rates are based on actual sales we've seen in the market, and through our model. But again, no, we're not providing any sample cap rates or comparable cap rates, if you will. So.
Okay, and then page 10 are your rental comps. Did you select these?
I did not personally know.
Okay, can we agree none of these are in the subject area? Or I guess, sorry, I'm sorry, Tureen would be, 420 Tureen would be, correct?
That would be the closest one, correct, yes.
Yeah, okay, and I guess, yeah, my question here, because some of these are very, very high. So I'm looking at the one on Nairn, 670 Nairn. That is sort of an interesting building. Can we agree they're doing wholesale carpet and tire sales?
I'll agree, yes.
Yeah, and they're also, you've got 57 or just a touch under 5,800 square feet, but they also have 2,200 square feet of basement area where they're selling the tires. And it says right on the building, wholesale tires in the basement. So there's retail space in the basement for that property that's not being captured here, correct?
If it's the property I'm thinking of, I've seen pictures of the basement. I didn't see tires there though.
Okay. Okay. And but just to be clear, on the outside of the building, it does say wholesale tires available. It's on some big letters. It's a red building with, I think, blue writing. Sorry, Matthew.
I believe that is correct.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I was going to mention. I'm sorry. I was going to mention this to Ryan Curtis, but I don't think there's a dispute in our rents, so I don't know if it's really necessary to really go much into depth on the rents. So.
Yeah, no, we're going to be talking about that storage area. So we're okay. That's fine. So I think I've made my point on that. And then I think, Madam Chair, those are my questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Story. Mr. Whitbread, do you have any questions for the assessor?
The only point is the high ratio of 9.11, and I think you've described that as a long and narrow piece of land. Would you suggest it's not suitable for any other development or excess land?
I mean, I wouldn't. Yeah, I definitely agree. Excess land would be not attainable, honestly. Though I understand it is slimmer and extends out, but you could still, as you can see, the building that's built on there, you could build buildings further back if you wanted to and extend that road if you want. So it's possible for surplus, if you will, not excess though. So
Surplus. Okay. Yeah. Thank you. No other questions.
Thank you, Mr. Whitbread. Ms. Duncan, do you have any questions?
No question. Thank you.
Thank you. And I have no questions. So, Mr. Story.
Yes, thank you very much. And Mr. Whitbread, you are quite correct that that property would be the land to building is good, but if you look on page 7 of my brief, you can see that what we've characterized here is this very long and narrow area for the parcel. And I note that if you look at that frontage, I think it's about 100 feet. So that would be atypical for a property this size. So it's a bit odd, and it would be, you could not, there's no dispute here. It's not excess land because it would not be subdividable. It would be landlocked, obviously. You'd have to go over the main holding to access it. But neither of us have made an adjustment. Okay, so we have this industrial office warehouse. It is in 1389 Niagara. I have another photo from Google Earth on page 8. You can see that at the very top of that photo, that's where the land starts to blend into the yards. So it is indeed very, very close to Simonton Yards. We have a gross area of 9,000 square feet. It's just under 2 acres. It's zoned M1 for light manufacturing. We've established that we have a Miracle channel on page 12. That is a very short lease, but my understanding is they renew from year to year. And they're in the office at $10.14. So that's what we've used. We believe that the actual rent being achieved is the best indicator of the market for this property. Now, in terms of the remaining warehouse space, we looked to determine a reasonable value. So we've included, we've stayed in the area, of course, and this is on page 12. You can see these are more typical warehouse areas. And you can see again, we have an average of 624 with a median of 650. We've used 625. So we've gone with the average in this case, very close to, that's a pretty tight average and median. So that looks reasonable to us. So that gives us an overall rent of $7.11. Now, again, in terms of our cap rate, we've used 7%. And that is, again, we've done our study. We are suggesting that a Class A, so the latest and greatest, the best properties with, in the best locations with fully amenity-rich properties would typically fall in that, call it 6 to 6.25, with the better, maybe slightly older product at 6.5. Most of the properties that you're going to see in Winnipeg would be in the middle of that Class B or even on the lower end of that Class B range. So we're going to see 6.5 to 7.5 for the most part. So for this property, we're right in the middle at 7%. We think that's very reasonable. I think we only have one property that might be classified as non-investment grade today, but those would typically start at 8%. So we have applied a cap rate of 7%. Ultimately, that leads us to a value of $783,400, which we then round to $783,000. And the balance of my brief shows you some subject photos. Now, again, it is, I don't know if we touched on this, it is steel frame, so it's not particularly high quality construction in the storage warehouse. It is functional. It does have lower ceiling heights. And locationally, it's not in what we'll call a traditional industrial area. We've got some more interior photos throughout this brief, and effectively, we do respectfully submit that based on our submission, the value ought to be amended to $783,000. And with that, I'm open to your questions.
Thank you, Mr. Story. Mr. San Juan, do you have any questions?
We have no questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Whitbread?
And I have none.
Thank you. Ms. Duncan?
Just one is, there's no interior photos of the office area. I thought maybe page 21, because it kind of looked like a desk, but I don't really see any office type pictures.
No, you know what? We don't have photos. That's a great point. Actually, the assessor has some pretty good photos of the office in his brief, and it does give a, it is a higher rent. It's a reasonable quality office. No issues there. So we've used the actuals. I think our rent is actually higher than what the model is suggesting for that office. But no, I apologize. I don't have photos of the office in this brief, but between the two of us, we have photos of both spaces. So you can get a pretty good view.
Oh, great. Thank you. Yes, I see that now in the SS. Thanks. No other questions.
Thank you, Ms. Duncan. Okay, and I have no additional questions. So let's just take a pause so we can all move to item number 11.
Madam Chair, might I
Yes.
just suggest a 5-minute break?
Of course.
Three to
Let's
5.
recess for 5 minutes, please.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, we are live. Thank you very much. I'd like to call the meeting back to order. Moving along on our agenda, we're now going to deal with item number 11, file number 22-1279-994 Wall Street. So, Mr. San Juan, when you're ready, you may begin with your presentation, please.
Thank you. Roll number 1301-142-0000. Roll year 2023, reference date April 1st, 2021. Assessed value is $1,089,000. Parcel use warehouse. Number of buildings 1. Number of premises 1. Number of stories 1. Actual and effective years built 1990. Wall height is 23 feet. Zoning M1. Planned area 20,196 square feet. Planned area is 8,392 square feet. Leasable area is 8,392 square feet. And planned area is 2.41. And let's turn to page 3, 4, and 5. You can see the subject is located near Wall and Sargent. Here is an overview of the property. Page 4 and 5, street view there, and some overheads from different angles. Page 6 is the workup. The total leasable area is 8,392 square feet. The total potential rent is $78,549. The model rent is $9.36 or $9.36 per square foot. The vacancy model rate is 6.5%. We're utilizing 3% for non-recoverable expenses and $3.85 per square foot for vacancy shortfall. This results in an NOI of $69,140. Utilizing a cap rate of 6.35% results in a rounded assessed value of $1,089,000. And page 7, these are the rent comparables. These comparables are what the net model rent is based on, the actual rents from the market. All leases are current in relation to the reference date, which range from 2019 to 2020. Effective year built ranges from 1967 to 1988. Average wall heights range from 14 feet to 18 feet. Leasable areas range from approximately 5,000 to 13,000 square feet. Net rents range from $9 per square foot to $12.35 per square foot. Page 8 is the capitalization rate chart. The table second from the top are the industrial capitalization rates. Stated cap rates fall between the 20th and 80th percentile. As you can see, the subject property's capitalization rate falls between this. Our model cap rate is further supported by the table of outside sources. Page 9 is the Municipal Assessment Act. Page 10 and 11 is the income and expense mailer. Page 13 and 14 are the COVID questionnaire. And we feel this value is fair and equitable and respectfully ask the board to confirm this. Thank you. Opening any questions.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. San Juan. Mr. Story, do you have any questions?
Yes, just a few. Okay, so again, Mr. San Juan, can you agree this land to plan is again very low at 2.4 to 1?
It is kind of low, but I looked at the uses, the use of this business, and it looks like for their use, it looks okay.
Right, but just as a general comment, I suppose, from in the eyes of the market, the capability for different users to use this property, that would be based on the siting, based on the low land to building, and then based on the potential for expansion. That low land to building would typically be considered a negative as an overall market view. Is that fair?
Yes, it is less than the ideal, 4 to 1.
Okay, perfect. All right, and then did you notice this building has I don't know if this makes any difference, but it's a very, very low degree of fenestration. There's almost no windows in this building. Did you remark that?
I can agree to that, yes.
Yeah. Okay, and then now the actual rent, this is a leased premise, and the actual rent being achieved is $7.87, correct?
This is according to the income and expense mailer?
Yep. It's rented
Yes.
to Garda Security, right? And they're in at $7.87. So is there any reason not to use the actuals and to defer to the model in this case? Is there anything that sticks out in that rent that would indicate to you that it's not at market?
Well, I've noticed on their on page looking at your brief, and on the mailer, they haven't indicated like a lease start date, lease end date. So is this like a month-to-month lease? Is this a year lease? Like we don't really have any information regarding that. So
okay. Okay. And then I guess just looking quickly at your page 7 again, that one on Aaron, that's that same electrician group that we talked about in the previous file, correct?
Correct.
Any idea of what the land to building is on that property? Do you know? Off the top of your head? No.
Top of my head, I can check, but I apologize. I don't know off the top of my head.
It's
Sorry,
okay.
so.
No, that's okay. And then that 1469 St. James, I mean, that's on a main, that's on a main commercial node on St. James. So can we agree that that's a superior location to our property that's pretty close to the corner of Wall and Sargent?
Yeah, it would have a little bit, would have better exposure. I won't dispute that. Yes.
Okay, and it would have sort of, so that's a large property with many tenants, and we could reasonably say that that's sort of a flex retail, flex office, industrial type development, correct?
Yeah, it has more of that. Yes, exactly correct.
And that's a very short lease as well, and typically a shorter lease would command a premium. Is that a fair comment?
Typically, yeah, small term leases would have a higher rent. Yes. Okay,
and then just for my own interest sake, that one on Winnipeg Avenue, that rent is fairly high. Is that Mondetta? Is that Mondetta Clothing, and is that also not owner occupied?
That one.
I don't think it's Mondetta.
No,
no. We have it as something else.
Okay, that's fine. I wasn't able to verify that. That's okay. You know what? I think those are my questions. Thank you both.
Thank you, Mr. Story. Mr. Whitbread, do you have any questions?
No, I don't. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ms. Duncan?
No questions, thank you.
Thank you. And I have no questions. So Mr. Story.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So our subject property is indeed at 994 Wall Street. It is on the west side of Wall between Sargent and Ellis. This would be considered the Sargent Park neighborhood in what the city calls the inner city neighborhood in the city of Winnipeg. The site is improved with a single story, 8,392 square foot building, and it was built in 1990. It's rectangular in shape. And the parcel size is approximately 20,196 square feet, and it has M1 light manufacturing zoning. In terms of the market rent, as we've established here, the city has applied a model rent of $936. We think that's too high. We've looked to the actual rent in place as of the reference date. It was rented to a sole tenant. That's Garda World. Those are the folks who do private security. And that actually the lease included a cash allowance for renovation, but we don't include that. But ultimately, the rental income to the owner in the year 2020 was $66,087. So that's the value that we've applied in our calculation. There's no reason for us to believe that ought to be any adjustment above that. That is indeed the market for this space. Vacancy and collection loss is at 6.5. I believe that's agreed to. Shortfall again is similarly not in dispute. We continue to apply a 5% erosion to the effective gross income for non-recoverables and 2% for the structural reserve. And Madam Chair, I'll ask my comments carry forward for the balance of the brief based on my abbreviated presentation on the first file that we did. And in terms of the cap rate, we've used again 7%. There are some positives here. We have very high wall heights. We have a property built in 1990, so that is good. Locationally, this is sort of an older it's not an industrial park, but there are industrial uses. There's some retail. There's a law office at the top of the street. There's the old it's Casabella restaurant. So it's sort of an interesting area, but it's certainly not a typical industrial park. So in terms of a middling class B, that makes sense to us. So we've applied a 7% cap rate. Ultimately, with all those factors taken into consideration, we come to an ultimate value of $793,668. And we do respectfully submit the value of the reference date ought not to exceed $794,000. The balance of my brief includes some the city valuation parameters, building details, the income and expense mailer. So ultimately, again, we do respectfully submit that the value for this cycle not exceed $794,000, and I'm open to your questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Story. Mr. San Juan, do you have any questions?
We have no questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Duncan?
No questions, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Whitbread?
And I have none, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. And I have no questions. All right. Item number 14 on our agenda, 22-1447, 52 Haithness Road, I think is how you pronounce that. Mr. San Juan.
Thank you. Roll number is 0703-012-5000. Roll year 2023, reference date April 1st, 2021. Assessed value is $1,052,000. We have a verbal recommendation to change the assessment from $1,052,000 to $940,000. And this is by changing the rent per square foot.
All right, thank you. Let me just repeat, you have a verbal rec to reduce from $1,052,000 to $940,000 based on a reduced rent per square foot. May I ask what that rent per square foot is?
$6.42.
$6.42. Mr. Story.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. We are in agreement with the final value of $940,000. And just as a note, we've sought client approval, but we are awaiting final approval. But we are in agreement with the quantum. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Story. Mr. Whitbread, do you have any questions on the recommendation?
I don't, thank you.
Ms. Duncan?
No questions, thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. San Juan, how did you arrive at $6.42 per square foot?
I can answer that. We basically were just looking at our comparables, and I felt that the rent we had maybe slightly high compared to the market rate comparable, so we just adjusted accordingly. So.
Okay, thank you so much for that explanation.
Can we just get a new NOI for that?
Yes.
The NOI is $60,151,000.
So your new NOI, just so I can repeat that back to you, is $60,151?
That's right.
Okay, and the cap rate remains at 6.4?
That's right.
Okay, thank you very much. All right. The last item on our agenda is item number 15, file number 22-2331, 375 Nairn Avenue. So, Mr. San Juan, when you're ready, please.
Thank you. Roll number 1409-295-5100. Roll year is 2023. Reference date is April 1st, 2021. Assessed value is $1,116,000. Parcel use is warehouse. Number of buildings 3. Number of premises 1. Number of stories 2. Actual years built 1955 to 1984. Effective years built 1955 to 1984. We're using an overall year built of 1970. Wall height is 12 to 15 feet. Zoning is C2 commercial.
Correct.
Yes. Land area is 21,505 square feet. Plan area is 7,763 square feet. Leasable area is 12,566 square feet. Land to plan area is 2.77. Turn to page 3. Property is located on Nairn. There's an overhead picture there. Page 4 is street views on Nairn. Page 5 is another aerial view from different angles. And page 6, here's the workup. The total leasable area is 12,566 square feet. The total potential rent is $84,569. The model rent is $6.73 per square foot. The vacancy model rate is 3%. We're utilizing 3% for non-recoverable expenses and $3.85 per square foot for vacancy shortfall. This results in an NOI of $78,120. Utilizing a cap rate of 7% results in a rounded assessed value of $1,116,000. Page 7 is the rent comparables. These comparables are what the net rent model is based on, the actual rents from the market. All leases are current in relation to the reference date, which range from 2016 to 2020. Effective year built ranges from 1952 to 1983. Average wall heights range from 14 feet to 18 feet. Leasable areas range from approximately 7,800 square feet to 15,000 square feet. Net rents range from $6.50 per square foot to $9.75 per square foot. Page 8 is the capitalization rate chart. This capitalization rate chart, table second from the top are the industrial capitalization rates that fall between the 20th to 80th percentile. As you can see, the subject properties capitalization rates fall between this. Our model cap rates are further supported by a table of outside sources ranging from 5.75 to 7.25. Page 9 is the Municipal Assessment Act. Page 10 and 11 are the income and expense mailer. Page 10, here they state net lease of $82,800 with no recoverables. So you take that, that would convert to $6.59 for rent per square foot, which is close to the model's $6.73 per square foot. Page 11, this monthly rent stated here also works to $82,800, which is $6.59 per square foot. Net lease also checked off here. Page 13 and 14 are the COVID questionnaire. And so yeah, we feel this value is fair and equitable and respectfully ask the board to confirm. We're open to any questions.
Thank you, Mr. San Juan. Mr. Story, do you have any questions?
Yes, Madam Chair, I do. Mr. San Juan, we just to deal with this outright. This property, we're all aware that this is an owner-occupied property, correct? It's not a leased premise.
Yeah, that's the I believe that's the B Clean is the tenant in there, correct? So
yep, it's the owner. It's the owner and the tenant. It's yes, and so we are aware, and so the board is aware. We can agree. These folks do commercial janitorial work. That's and this is partially their office and then partially their warehouse, correct?
I'll agree. Yes.
Okay, and this property was built up over, well, let's say about half of it, just for the sake of using round numbers, half of it was built between 55 and 62, and then the other half is built in 1984. Is that fair comment?
Yes, well, that would be, yeah, we're using an overall effective year built in 1970, but you're right, they were built in different stages, yes. So.
Okay, and that wall height of 12 to 15 feet. Now, despite the fact that it's low for most users, it's about, well, let's say 2/3 of it are at 12 feet, and then the remaining third is about at 15 feet. Is that fair?
Just looking from the pictures, I don't dispute that. Yeah.
Okay, so but just so we're clear, the original section that's built in 55 is 1,200 feet with no basement, and it has 12-foot ceilings. I'm sorry, there's a partial basement on that original build in 55, and that has 12-foot ceilings. And then in 62, there's a 2-story addition of about 2,800 square feet that has 15-foot ceilings. And then the addition in 1984, interestingly, of about 3,700 square feet, that has 12-foot ceilings. So it is predominantly 12-foot ceilings, correct?
Yeah, the majority of the wall heights, yes,
Yeah.
I won't dispute that, yes, so.
Okay, and again, we have a very low, or well, it's slightly superior to some of the properties that we're seeing today, but that is indeed, again, a reasonably low land to building at 2.77, correct?
I'll agree, yes.
Yeah, yes, I won't disagree, yes.
Okay, and it is on Nairn, so it's not, it's sort of on a, well, it's in Elmwood on what we'll call a, well, it's a commercial corridor, and that's why it's indeed zone C2, correct? It's not a typical industrial area.
It's in, yeah, I mean, you're right, it's, I won't dispute that, yes, so. But
It's
I mean,
across from the LaSalle Hotel, right? Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
but at the same time too, it does have, good exposure and stuff based on there, and it does a lot of traffic, so, but yes, but yes,
Sure.
I disagree, yeah.
Okay, and then on page 3, now this is where this gets a bit tricky, but we didn't make an adjustment. But can we agree at a minimum that when we look at page 3, there is common ownership of 2 of the properties that are on that street is called William Newton, and you can see that sort of Quonset hut that abuts the property on the north of your bottom picture on page 3.
Yeah, I see that, yeah.
Yeah, so that's common ownership. I believe it's numbers 358 and 374. So they're not adjacent properties, but this owner does indeed own 2 of the properties on the residential street behind this property. Are you aware of that?
No, I was not aware of that.
Okay, that's okay. We haven't made an adjustment, but I want to make sure you're aware and that the boards are aware, but there is common ownership there. Okay, so again, page 6, this is all model generated, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, and then just very quickly to go through these rents. Well, none of these are on Nairn, and I don't think any of these are in the subject area, are they? Well, maybe Fife. Oh, well, that's interesting. Fife is code 14, but that's in Inkster. That would have been a good one for the first one we looked at, actually. But none of these are on Nairn, correct? Or in that area?
Correct. Yeah, correct.
Okay. All right, and then that one on St. Matthews, that is this is the one that I was able to look at. That has a retail component. That's B.A. Robinson, correct?
That's correct. That's correct.
Okay, so and none of these properties, to be fair, would be built up over a number of years. So our property is a bit of an outlier in that regard. Would you agree with me?
Yeah, there's not as many buildings built in it. I won't dispute that. Yes. So, but
yeah. Okay. Those are my questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Story. Mr. Whitbread, do you have any questions?
Yes, I do. Just looking at that adjacent property, that green hut appears to be attached to the building that is the subject property, but I don't believe you've included that in the value, have you?
no, we've not included that in the valuation at all. So.
Just and is that because it's a different roll number?
Yeah, honestly, to Mr. Story, he mentioned I didn't know it was even had any common ownership because it's not really tied to the roll number. So, but yeah.
Okay, thank you. That's all my questions.
Thank you, Mr. Whitbread. Ms. Duncan?
No question. Thank you.
Okay, I just have a quick question. And I appreciate that square footage may not be in dispute, but I do have a question on the I&E, page 10. It reports the total leasable area of 6,726 square feet. Can you explain that? You're using 566.
Yeah, the total leasable we have at 12,000 square feet, which I believe is the same as the Story, but I guess that's where I guess I was a little confused because I wasn't aware. I thought there was maybe a partial the space was maybe tenanted out. So yeah, I guess I'm a little confused myself on that. Maybe Mr. Story might have a bit more information on that, but the total lease area we have with the all the buildings in its entirety would be 12,000 square feet. So, I'm not sure why they don't show the total lease area, why they're only showing half the square footage, I guess. So to me, it looks like it's a net lease for that 6,726 square feet of space. So that was my, thought process on that at least, but.
Yeah, and it's kind of small on page 11. But I am looking at, there's seems to be 4 premises here. All
Yes,
show a net lease.
correct.
I had understood from Mr. Story's questions that this was owner occupied, but is there space that's leased out to someone other than the owner?
I'm gonna be honest with you. I unfortunately I'm not 100% aware at this time. I apologize. I didn't do more detail into looking into that. I mean, I was under the same assumption as well. Like I apologize. I didn't really get a chance to really go into depth in this one. So, so
No,
maybe
that's
just short
okay.
details. Yeah.
Yeah, perhaps when we get to it, Mr. Story can explain. Okay. That's all. Oh, just wait. Going back, I note that it's 82,800 in total income, and that worked out to 659 per square foot. Correct?
For our model,
Yeah, you're using 673, but
yes.
use what's reported at 82.8. I think you noted it came to $6.59.
Yeah, if you take that income divided by the total leasable area, like if you took 12,000 square feet, yeah, if you
Right.
do that, not just the 6,000, but yeah, exactly.
Okay, thank you. That's all the questions I have. So, Mr. Story.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. And you are quite right. I'm not sure why the owner is recording a lower square footage, but I will note that they have a number of properties down there, and they basically they own, well, almost the entire 300 block. Their properties on different rolls run from 310 Nairn to 375-379. So it may be in how they're reporting, but I can confirm to you that they are all indeed owner occupied. There are no leases. This is Be Clean. This is their sort of a complex of theirs. And then Mr. Whitbread, you had asked about those 2 properties that are that sort of hut that's abutting the property, and it is indeed those are both on separate rolls. I'd mentioned the wrong addresses. They are actually 374 and 354 William Newton, and that's the residential street that runs right behind. So those are assessed separately and taxed separately. I suppose we could make the argument that they ought to be removed from the main holding, but we have not done that. We've just we've adjusted the cap rate on a site-specific basis. So anyway, moving forward, we are on 375 Nairn. We have a number of buildings here built up, again, between 1955 through 1984. We are on a commercial node. Again, we're across from the LaSalle Hotel. Just to give you some orientation, we're not in a typical industrial zone. This is Elmwood, and we are at we have a land plan of 2.77 to 1. Which again is very low. You can see that the siting of these buildings is sort of a bit piecemeal as well on page 7. And again, you can see those the northern part of that photo shows well, the one with the green hut, that's theirs, and then the one on the far left is also theirs, and it has a house on it. So this is one large complex. Used for their purposes. I have a breakdown of the space on page 8, just showing you the how we get to that 12,986. We believe it to be accurate. Now, just to further itemize the that 2,823, or I'm sorry, the 1,200 square feet that you see there first in 1955. That's main floor, main area. The 2,823, that is the office at the rear. And I'm sorry, the first one that I mentioned of 1,200 square feet, that's the rear warehouse. The third, that's the second floor, obviously, of that rear office. The 3,740 square feet, that is 1,980 square feet of office with 1,760 square feet of warehouse. And then that second section of 1,980 square feet is the second floor office. So that's how that's broken down. It is a bit of a complicated property in that they've oriented the space to their use, but it is, well, let's say it's atypical at a minimum. We've looked, because it is owner occupied, we have looked to the market. We don't have rents Nairn, but we've done our best to look to spaces that are built between effectively between 1972 up until 1988, with leasable areas that are consummate with our subject. And we see that our averages run from $5.92, median of $6, and those wall heights are they're superior in virtually all instances except for that property on Shepherd. Land to building is also similar in that they run from 2 to 1 to 3.5 to 1 or so. Zoning is also similar. So ultimately, with these comparables taken from the market, we think that $6 per square foot makes sense. So we've applied that in our valuation. Now, I mentioned earlier on that we would only have one property that would be considered non-investment grade, and this is indeed the one. So in this instance, we've applied a capitalization rate of 8%. Again, we have very low land to building. We have an area that is not suited to most industrial uses, piecemeal construction, and we also have some reliance on those adjacent properties on William Newton, which we have not made an adjustment for, but rather we've captured them in the elevated cap rate. So with all of that taken into consideration, and of course we do continue to apply our 5% for non-recoverables and a market vacancy of 4%, our value comes to $817,230. This is outlined on page 15 of my brief. So we do respectfully submit that the value not exceed $817,000 for this cycle. And with that, I'm open to your questions, and I thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Story. Mr. San Juan, do you have any questions?
I just have one quick question. I apologize. Maybe I didn't hear this. So then, just looking at the mailer, then. So is this are these actually is this mailer actually like tenanted out, or is this actually like you said it's owner occupied, but are there actual other tenants in there? I guess, or
no. So okay, so you can see. I'll just show you very quickly. Property owner, Korea Enterprises. Mr. Korea is the owner of Be Clean, and then this is signed by his controller from Be Clean. So yes, this is all owned by Be Clean, and if you go down there, you can see they have a couple of other properties that are on Nairn as well on separate rolls. So they actually, as I mentioned, they are occupying basically the 300 block of Nairn. That's their compound. So yes, it is indeed all owner occupied.
So then I guess I just kind of confused it. So like going on page 21 of your brief, it shows these different leases in here. So these are for different. These aren't for the property here then, or?
Sorry, the notes that he's made under tenant name.
Yeah, like under 20. Yeah, where it just shows these tenants and stuff and the monthly rents. So then this is like I'm just curious. So these are pertain to different buildings, I guess, or?
No, those are the units that they're saying, but that's like Canfor, Control, Delcon. That's their own. They are occupying this building. Those are not leases. And I guess those are when you're asking about the monthly rent. I guess those are internal rents. I don't know why they send them out like this, but that is indeed a fully owner occupied building. That's a good point. Okay. So I can make a note to speak to the owner just so we don't have confusion. But yes, that's Be Clean. That is owner occupied.
Okay, that's all the questions we have then. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Mr. Whitbread.
I have none, thank you.
Ms. Duncan?
No questions.
Thank you very much. And Mr. Story, you answered my question about these rents that are noted on the I&E as well. Does make it a bit confusing for everyone.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I'll make a note of that to send a message to the owner just so they're aware.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Story. Is there a desire for summation, Mr. San Juan?
No, thank you. We're good.
Mr. Story?
Just very quickly, thank you everyone for your time today and discussing these properties. I would request though that our submissions be given weighted consideration as we have supported our requests for the cap rates with a separate study as well as our non-recoverables and our rents from the market. So I do appreciate your time, and I would ask that our submissions be given consideration on that basis. And thanks again.
Thank you very much, Mr. Story. So we have now heard all the items scheduled, and this hearing is now adjourned. Thank you very much, Mr. Harling and Mr. San Juan and Mr. Story for your presentations today.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Success.
Good day.
Bye
Bye
now.